Welcome to another episode of the CarryTrainer Higher Line podcast. Here we are again with another episode of the CarryTrainer Higher Line podcast. It is March 21st today. Talking to my friend John Napolitano, or if you want to pronounce it incorrectly, Napolitano or Napolitano. I don't know how the hell to say it. But here he is. This is our buddy John from New York. And what we're going to talk about today, I guarantee is going to make some gun owners and lovers of freedom super pissed off.
I hope it does.
Welcome.
Thanks, buddy.
You were just telling me that you're about to get a foot of snow tonight in New York?
Yeah, foot of snow the first day of spring. That's always fun.
Yeah, well, it's in the 50s here in Chicagoland, so I don't feel terrible. It's not like I'm out in my Speedos yet or anything.
And you had a good range day, so you had an
indoor heated range. Yeah.
Not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm unable to go to the range right now.
Well, I want to talk about that, but before we get to that, let's just introduce people so they know, who you are. I'll tell them a little bit about how we met and about your background, and then that will kind of like set the stage as to who we're talking about. So you and I met. Grinder. Yeah. I gotta add a little joke here, but not a joke. So I'm involved in politics here in my county in Illinois, and this just was in the front page of our paper yesterday. A gentleman that I've known for years. He was a county board member. I don't feel bad talking about it because it's national news. Political did an article on it yesterday. He's married, 2 kids, was county board member. He's the chairman of the Right to Life Association. He's a member of he puts on the Catholic prayer breakfast that 500 people show up to every year. And he works as the chief of staff for our congressman, my congressman, U.S. congressman, who's a very conservative, pro-family, which is code for I don't like gays. And he got caught in a car with a 17-year-old boy with his shirt off. Police said, "What are you doing in the car and with your shirt off?" And he said, I'm hot. And then he asked the boy, "How'd you meet this guy?" And the dude told the cops, "I've known him for a while," that kid. And the kid said, "I just got out of work. I had a bad day. I knew I shouldn't have done it, but I downloaded Grindr, and this guy picked me up on the side of the road 10 minutes later." So the whole Grindr joke is pretty fresh around my parts right now. I've known the guy for years, so it's like, what the fuck? 56 years old, 3 kids, and he got caught with a 17-year-old boy. Uh-huh.
Crazy.
Yeah. Anyway. So you and I met via Instagram. We attended one of my courses.
We did another podcast together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot about that with
the bullet thing.
Yeah, with Bayou, not Bayou. It's my God, this is terrible because he's going to listen to this and be like, "Oh my God, they don't."
Yeah, I totally forgot.
Eli.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, my brain went blank.
We met for the first time on that podcast, and then I took one of your classes, and we did some good shooting.
You're a USPSA competitor out of New York.
I am.
You live in Long Island, right?
I live in Long Island, New York. Yeah, I compete USPSA and some IDPA. Only when there's just no USPSA around, I'll shoot a little IDPA. Mm-hmm. But I travel within the tri-state area. I also go down to Florida, Texas. I've competed in Georgia, going out to Vegas the weekend after S12, which is in Myrtle Beach.
What is the tri-state area? That's New York, New Jersey, and what?
Connecticut. But for me, when I say tri, it's really New York, New Jersey, and then I go to some competitions in Pennsylvania and Connecticut. Gotcha. Pennsylvania is like a 3-hour drive, and they have some pretty good competitions there.
Okay. So, yeah, you just mentioned S12. You and I will be together in a few weeks in Myrtle Beach. You were an instrumental part of helping put that together, bringing on sponsors and getting it out to the world. So that's going to be cool. And we have been talking about some of what's going on in your personal life, which prompted us to do this. So I don't want to get too deep into your personal business, but what I want to share with people because of my background as a Second Amendment lobbyist is what's going on with you in New York. So I'm going to let you talk some. I'll ask a few questions because some people that don't know you. So you're going through a divorce, right?
Well, and I guess in what, at least from what I understand, when most people get divorced, one person leaves, the other person stays, and the divorce commences. So my wife decided that she didn't want to leave. And I guess she has every right to stay here until the divorce is over, which is a little bit crazy. We had a prenup. The house is mine, so she didn't have any. She was, by staying, it wasn't helping her any. So
you owned the house before you met her,
correct?
And then you guys had a prenuptial agreement that if you divorced or separated, the house would continue to be your home.
Yeah, she also owns a property, so she was protected too, and her property is much more valuable than mine.
So your point that you just made, just so the listeners understand, is like there was really no reason for her to try. Like in my state, they always tell people don't leave the house because then you might lose your right to the property. Your point is just it wasn't hers to begin with, and you guys had that agreement. So
correct. So so her staying or leaving doesn't affect any money. It was just her wanting to bust balls. So one night, my lawyer said, you should change your Wi-Fi password because she might be hacking into your stuff. So I changed my Wi-Fi password. I came home. She asked me for it. I said, my lawyer told me not to give it to you. So I don't know, contact your lawyer and I guess we'll figure it out. I mean, $50 a month, you get Wi-Fi. So get it on your own. By the way, I pay all the bills, including the Wi-Fi. So I didn't think this was going to be an issue. I sat down, she called 911 and I kind of laughed. I was like, the police aren't going to come because.
So she wanted the Wi-Fi password and she dialed 911 on the telephone.
That is correct. So the police came in 2 minutes. It was like record time. So I answered the door and I was still kind of in a joking mood. So I opened the door and I was like, hey man, I'm guilty. So the cop's like, what'd you do? I'm like, change Wi-Fi password. So he kind of chuckles and he walks down and he's like, did your husband hit you? So she was like, no. Did he threaten you in any way? She was like, no, he just changed the password. So, and I recorded this, by the way. So she says, did he yell at you? She's like, no, he didn't even raise his voice. I just want the password. So the guy looks at me and I was like, man, you could waterboard me. You're never getting the password. So he's like, okay. I'm like, my lawyer told me not to do it. So I step outside with one officer. She's inside with the other officer. The guy's like, dude, this is going to take like 2 hours. So if you don't mind giving her the password, like it would really help us out. I'm like, dude, you get paid? I'm like, I'm at my house. I'm absolutely never giving her the password. So forget it. So he's like, all right, cool. So now we're just out there like shooting the shit. And he's like, there's no guns in the house, is there? I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of guns in the house. So he's like, what do you do? What do you do with the guns? I'm like, well, right now they're in a safe. He's like, well, why do you have so many? I'm like, I didn't tell you how many I have. So I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to be elusive. I'm like, but you guys just walked in and asked if I raised my voice and she said no. So what does this have to do with my guns? And he's like, well, it's a domestic incident. I'm like, I changed the Wi-Fi password. So he's like, all right. He's like, well, I got to make a phone call. I'm like, yeah, make a phone call. So somebody else comes. There's like now 5 or 6 cop cars in front of my house.
Holy smokes.
They fill out a report. Now, I'm in the houses here are pretty close. So all my neighbors now see this commotion go on. The police leave. Only she gets a copy of the police report because she dialed 911. So now the next day I get a call from pistol licensing and they're like, hey, we see you had a domestic incident. I'm like,
let's go back a step just because some people don't know that New York has pistol licensing. Like even my effed up state here doesn't have pistol licensing.
Yeah, there's a department just for pistols.
So in the state of New York, or is it just in Nassau County or New York City?
State of New York. State of New York.
So anywhere in the state of New York. If I live up in the Catskills, and that's in New York, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe that you have to go through a pistol licensing department. I think every department has a pistol licensing department. At least that's
the police agencies do.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, I could be wrong, but I know Nassau, Suffolk, Manhattan, the 5 boroughs, everywhere that I've been has a pistol licensing department.
Okay. So that department gets involved. Oh, and one more question. You mentioned gun safe. Is it the law in New York that your guns have to be locked up?
I believe it is, but I don't know. I know that when I applied for my pistol license, they asked me, where are you going to keep them? And I said, they're going to be in a safe. He said, so when you're not using them, they're always good. I had to sign a paper that said, they're always going to be in a safe when I'm not using them.
Got it.
So, and I have, my safe is, I have 2 safes in my house, both bigger than my refrigerator. So it gives you an idea.
Sure.
I even keep my ammo in my safes because it just makes it heavier and probably harder to steal.
Sure. Makes sense.
So he calls me up and he says, so we had a domestic incident. I was like, I don't know that we had a domestic incident. I changed the Wi-Fi password. I'm like, I recorded the whole thing, and your police officers told me I never broke the law and that I didn't raise my voice. I'm like, he's like, yeah, no, I'm reading the report. He's like, you didn't break the law. You didn't do anything wrong. I'm just letting you know that we're on you're on our radar. I'm like, well, I don't know what that means. He's like, well, if we have to keep coming out there. I'm like, but I didn't break the law. So she calls the police every single day, and she calls them every day. Like, I can't control what she does, but odds are you're going to be back. So I guess a week or 2 later, there was an incident in Brooklyn where a small child was playing with a stove, and he burnt the entire building down, and like 13 people died.
Oh, terrible.
So the very next day, I'm watching it on the news, and my son, I hear him playing with the stove, and that when it goes tick tick tick, like you now have engaged the. So I run over and I just take the knobs off the stove. So now there's
your little guy behind you on the wall, right?
It's this little guy.
Okay.
So he's 18 months old. It's hard to. You could tell him no, but I don't know. That's really going to sink in before the house burns down. So I took the knobs off the stove. And I come back in the room, and my wife is already on the phone with 911. So I'm like, you understand that you can still use the stove. An intelligent adult can still move those little dials without the dial. So I wasn't even going to argue. I sat on the couch.
So she called 911 because you took the knobs off of the stove.
That's correct. Knobs off the stove.
So you didn't give them to her because I think you had told me this before. You purchased those things.
Well, no, so that's later on in the story. So I would have given her the knob to use for the cooking, but now that you dialed 911, like, I guess we'll let the police figure it out, right? I mean, you already called them. You didn't ask me.
And they're coming. Yeah, once you push the buttons, they're showing up.
Yeah. So the police come. She tells the whole story, and the cop's like, ma'am, do you watch the news? Some kid just killed 13 people. What are you doing? So he looks at me. He's like, don't give her those knobs back. I'm like, yeah, man, I don't plan to. So he's like, they make these plastic covers. So I show him my phone. I'm like, these? He's like, yeah. He's like, why don't you just get those? I'm like, I did, but Amazon takes 2 days, and you guys take 2 minutes. They're ordered, and I'll put them back on in 2 days. I'm like, but it is what it is, So he told her straight out. He's like, I would advise him not to give you the knobs back until those come in, and it's not really a 911 call. So maybe like a week later, the door, you can see there's a door right there that goes downstairs, and there's a laundry room. So that door was locked. I was sitting on the couch. It was 2 feet of snow outside in a blizzard. And she's like, I can't get in the laundry room. I'm like, well, you could call down, and then someone will come up and open it. We just walk around the house and open it. She's like, well, why don't you call? I'm like, because I don't need to do laundry. So she's like, did you lock the door? I'm like, I don't know. I've been sitting right here. I had my son on my lap. I'm like, figure it out. Picks up the phone, 911. My husband's not letting me do laundry. So I'm like, I can't even believe that they're going to come here and not arrest you. Because that's such a ridiculous call to make. But then you think about it, well, she called for Wi-Fi and knobs. So the police come. I don't even look at the cops as they walk through the door. I'm still sitting on the couch. And the first cop that comes through, he's like, she tells the story. He's like, so let me just get this straight. You fucking called me in 2 feet of fucking snow because you can't do your fucking laundry. So he's like, are you on drugs? So she's like, no, but I needed a police report. He's like, yeah, why don't you get your skinny ass in the car and drive down to the fucking police station and file a report? He's like, why would you make us come here? There's real people that need help today. And now I'm fucking here because you can't do your fucking laundry. So, and he's saying it just like I'm saying it. And as he's yelling outside, because the cops double park, some car gets stuck in the street trying to like go around the police cars. He's like, now I got another car stuck, and just completely screaming at her. So they had already asked her about, did I yell? Did I this? Did I that? She already said no to everything. And, so she's standing there, and she looks at me and she's like, I'm in fear for my life. So the cop goes, okay, where do you want to go? I'll take you anywhere you want. So she's like, well, my lawyer said not to leave. He's like, well, if you're actually scared that something bad is going to happen to you, then I'll take you wherever you want to go today. She's like, no, I'm not leaving. He's like, okay, then you're obviously not in fear for your life. And she's like, well, I want that in the report. He's like, yeah, I'm not writing that. He's like, if you want that written in the report, tell me where you want to go and I'll take you. So I'm standing next to the cop. I'm like, ask her where she sleeps at night. So she's like, well, I sleep in bed. I'm like, next to me, the guy that you're afraid of. I'm like, where are you going to sleep tonight? In bed next to me? Give me a break. So the cop's like, yeah, don't even worry, I'm not even putting that in the report. So the cops were really aggressive toward her, and they were not happy. They leave. The next day I get a call from pistol licensing. And then, so the same day where she says to the cops, he has guns in the house and I'm scared. So I said, there's no guns in the house, officer. She goes, he's a competitive shooter. I said, that's true. I don't have any guns in the house.
So at some point between the first time that she called 911 and the third time
before the first time she called 911, I had already taken all the guns out of the house because I thought that this was going to be an issue. So I had handed the police officer a receipt. When I took my guns in, I had a receipt for all the guns that I had dropped off at the gun store. So he's like, oh man, this is a smart idea.
So you've got a buddy that owns a gun store and you said, hey, can I keep my stuff at your shop?
And then what I do is I'll pick up a gun on Saturday, go shoot a competition, and then drive right back and drop it off. They never come home.
Sure.
So this has been going on for a while. So now she says to the cops, he built his own gun. It doesn't have a serial number on it. So I'm like, listen, I built my own gun. It's called a Poly 80. I had someone laser serial numbers on it. It's right here. I dropped it off. But it's registered under my name.
Totally.
It's a registered gun. By the way, you don't even have to do that for the federal government, just New York State requires. I did it. I mean, I'm not a criminal. I'm not trying to beat the system. So the cops were like, they actually were like, hey, that's pretty cool. How long did it take you? So we had a little side conversation because they were totally cool with it. Then the next day I get a call from pistol licensing. You got to come turn your guns in. So I explained that I didn't have the guns in the house and that I only use them for competition. And he's like, okay. He's like, well, just come down and hand in your license. So I'm like, you do understand that I didn't break the law and there was no crime. And I never even raised my voice. And that's all in the police reports. He's like, yeah, I see it. He's like, it's our policy if we have to come out, repeated calls. I'm like, okay. I'm like, so when's the court date? I have some kind of due process, right? No, it's just our policy. We don't have to give you a court date. We're just taking them.
So this is the stuff I wanted everybody to hear, just so they understand. I'm going to repeat. You and your wife going through a divorce, and just to give her the benefit of the doubt, because I have a wife and I'm not always right. And while you're my friend and I believe the story you're saying, I'm sure sometimes you say things that are maybe aggressive or argumentative or whatever, right? Every couple has a fight, but the point is police are at your house at least 3 times. Each time they say you did not break any laws, right?
Correct.
And
I never even raised my voice.
And they documented this, but now the state or your county, Nassau County, is telling you that you are losing your right to possess handguns. And they tell you got to come turn your license in.
No, sir. I have to relinquish my handguns and any long arms.
Okay.
Everything.
Okay.
Everything. So complete Second Amendment violation. So rather than have that conversation with the cop, I just made it clear that I didn't break the law. And is there any way I could keep the guns out of the house like I'm doing and then just pick them up for competition? Nope, you can't have access to any firearms. So I said, okay, when will I get those guns back? He said, well, as soon as she moves out, we'll be able to reinstate you. I said, okay. So now I go to court to have her taken out of my house. I sign paperwork where I have to pay her a $10,000 stipend to leave within 6 weeks. She leaves. I put the $10,000 in an escrow with my lawyer. I pay her the $10,000 because I want to shoot my guns. It's what I do. So it's worth the $10,000, right? I get her out. I now call Pistol. I'm like, hey, she's out of the house. And they're like, yeah, we're probably going to do an investigation. If we don't come out to your house in the next maybe 12 months, we'll start an investigation, and that investigation will take 6 to 12 months. I'm like, you're going to keep my guns for 2 years, and I haven't committed a crime. Having a gun in New York is a privilege, not a right. That's what they tell me.
When you first told me this on the phone, it makes my blood boil. And I know you and I were discussing it. I reached out to a lawyer that I know that specializes in these kinds of cases. And then you spoke with your lawyer, right? Mm-hmm. And he did some background and went and contacted the departments and basically told you you're up shit's creek, right?
Yeah, he said, they out of all, there's other lawsuits going right now. My lawsuit happens to be the best because I do make money shooting my guns. So he contacted them and kind of said, hey, if you want this guy not to sue, we should settle this quickly. I think he just wants his guns back. So they spoke to the police. The police are like, nope, it's our policy. We're not going to change our policy for one person. And we'll do our investigation in 12 months from now. So my lawyer said the only thing that you can do is sue, and it could change policy forever. But the thing is, nobody wants to spend 20 grand to change policy if they're not going to get their guns back any faster. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So
the problem I have with this is how has somebody not made this a Supreme Court case? This is a constitutional violation of your protected civil liberties with zero due process, like you said. So what did your lawyer say about that? You can't just challenge it.
We're going to challenge it in federal court, but it doesn't happen overnight.
Sure.
So he has a case similar to mine. The guy only had 2 guns, but he had the same thing, and he has some trial coming up. They're doing jury selection in June. So the way it was explained to me, and I could be explaining it wrong because this is me trying to regurgitate what my lawyer said, but if this guy wins, he'll set precedents. Sure. So if he sets precedents, my lawyer believes that they'll be ordered to do things a certain way, but they're still not going to do it. Yeah. So now I'll be the third, because they've already been ordered to do it and they haven't done it. I'll be the third person coming in. And from what my lawyer explains is on the third try, if you don't do it, they can come and handcuff police officers because now they're breaking federal law. Now, I don't know that that's going to happen, but he's like, you're the third guy around. He's like, you're the guy that can change case law forever. He's like, it's just a matter of, do you want to spend the money to fight it?
We've had cases like that, McDonald versus Chicago, Otis McDonald, yeah, and Mary Shepard versus the state of Illinois. We've had those cases here. McDonald was a man that lived in the city of Chicago. Chicago had no handguns. It was illegal to have handguns at all in the city limits. And so he's like, this is crazy. I lived in the same neighborhood forever. I'm a good person. I'm not a criminal. And it made it to the Supreme Court, and that changed laws around the country. But New York, being one of the states, kind of just said, we don't give a shit what the Constitution says. So like my question in this, not just to you, but to anybody listening to this, New York is a super populated state, right? How many people live in New York City? 5 million, 7 million, 10 million?
I think it's 7, but yeah, I don't know for sure.
So you've got this huge amount of people, very similar to Illinois, where and I know you love your city, but I'm going to say fucking cesspool of politics that are in this, just like Chicago is. The rest of Illinois, like I drove all around New York State. It's a gorgeous, beautiful state, mountains, rivers, creeks, all that jazz. And then and most of those people are good folks. Then the scumbags from New York City that enact the policy for your entire state. California's got the same problem. Jersey's got the same problem, and Illinois definitely does. So what the fuck has to happen for people to be able to enjoy civil liberty as it's put forth in the Constitution? So you and I, go ahead.
So the point that you made earlier, I could be completely telling you a lie, and I could be 100% guilty, but you don't know that without due process.
Sure.
So if you're denying me due process, maybe I shouldn't have a handgun. Maybe I am a sociopath. Maybe I made all this story up, and they should have taken my guns. Even if that's the case, I still deserve due process.
Right.
So that's the part that we're fighting for. It's not whether they give my guns back or not. Once I get due process, I know the guns are coming back. I haven't broken a law. I've never been arrested. I don't have parking tickets. So there's no reason for them. They know they're not going to get away with keeping my guns if I got due process. That's why they deny it. But my point is, even if you are guilty, you still should have the due process.
The point you just made, I will add to that. So there's people that will hear this or hear similar stories, and they're like, I don't care about guns. Who gives a shit? And those are the same people, perhaps, back in the 90s and 80s when Congress was talking about censorship of rap music and like heavy metal because it was vulgar. And I remember, like, my dad was a pastor, so a lot of folks that were like adult influences around me as growing up in a very strongly Christian religious home, people thought, that's wonderful. Yes, censor that. And as a kid, I didn't understand what all that meant. But for fuck's sake, thinking about censorship, to be able to take away the freedom of speech, which I think a lot of times when people like think of freedom of speech, they think about like either writing like a journalistic article or standing like on a soapbox and like speaking, but it's can be anything, right? Music, movies, whatever. And so when we start to like not care because the thing being taken away isn't our thing, it matters once due process. That's a pretty fucking big deal when you have no due process, no ability to defend yourself.
Do you remember when Bloomberg wanted to take salt off the table and no sugary drinks? Mm-hmm. I don't ever use salt, or I drink diet everything or water. How could you tell me that I can afford a Coca-Cola? I can't buy one now.
Right.
I mean, it didn't go through, but how crazy is that? I mean, what kind of nanny state are we going to live in that they're going to tell me what I can eat and drink?
We've got in Cook County, which is like Nassau County. Cook County is the county that Chicago's in. They've got a sugar tax. So if you buy like soda or something else that's got high sugar content, you pay. I think they maybe got that passed or kicked off, but it got passed a while ago, and then people voted it down. And it was like you said, if I go buy a bottle of water, tax is 10%. If I go buy a Coke, tax is 15%. Like, what the hell are you talking about? But to try to ban it outright is insane.
That's what it was.
This argument, though, gets slippery because somebody could say, okay, well, Mickey's discussion on like music. What if somebody's screaming about murdering babies, or if they're making art and the art is like human blood or something? Like, there are limits to things, just like Second Amendment. People say, well, should you have a tank? And that discussion is it is deeper than just having the thing. Free speech doesn't mean I can stand in a pulpit and say racial or hateful things, or does it? You know, that's the other thing. Or does it? Like, am I not allowed to hate? I don't. But like, if I don't like something, do I really in this country not have the right to not like something? Or to your point, to like something? I want to drink sugar and I want to die at 30 of diabetes and heart disease. I'm a lot older than 30, by the way. But that, like you said, it's my fucking right to fill up a glass with pounds of sugar and chug it if I freaking want to. And some, pardon my language, cock-sucking politician that probably can't run a fucking convenience store, let alone run the lives of thousands and millions of people, is going to try to tell me what I can and cannot do. By the way, I don't drink pop at all, except like once every 6 months when I go to the movie, and then it's a root beer. Just so you know. That's all true, by the way.
So I mean, I'm at a point now where, I mean, it's so discouraging to hear that it's going to be 2 years before I can shoot a gun in New York. Mm-hmm. I can go out of state because I have out of state licenses, but I can't shoot here in my home state. So if I want to do a competition, I have to drive at least 2 hours away to compete.
Because the state won't let you.
Yeah, the state won't let me.
So in Illinois, when we decided that we were going to get concealed carry passed, everybody said that'll never happen. That'll never happen, because our state's like your state, where it's just these entrenched, terrible, oppressive gun laws. And it happened because we started explaining it from the viewpoint of what I was just talking about. Look, this isn't about guns. It's about civil liberties. It's about the Bill of Rights. It's about what our country's founded on. And people that weren't pro-gun became pro-gun because they started thinking about it. So you and I talked the other day. It's going to cost you like 20, 30 G's to fight this. And so we're going to put together a GoFundMe page. You're going to, right?
Correct.
We're going to get that put together, and we're going to drive people to it. We've got at least one specialist Second Amendment attorney that we've already contacted, and perhaps more will get involved. We've got contacts at NRA and other organizations. And this is one of those things when people, especially nowadays, badmouth NRA, these are the kind of cases that NRA invest their money in.
I have to ask my lawyer if I'll be able to do it. I have subpoenaed the police records because I didn't call 911. I'm not privy to those. So I've subpoenaed those, and if I'm allowed to, I will post those online. So that people can see.
That's all FOIA-able information. I should technically be able to file a FOIA request and get those if I wanted to.
I was told I had to subpoena it. So, at $500 an hour from a lawyer, I don't know how long that takes them, but it's just more money, more money, more money.
Probably weeks.
No, I don't know how long what he's going to charge me as far as the hourly rate.
I know. I'm just kidding. I meant weeks of his work at $500 an hour. That's what I meant.
Yeah. So I know that it's been filed, and now we're waiting for the court so that we can get the documents. But I just feel like you're fighting. I'm fighting a losing battle. There's just no light at the end of the tunnel here. 2 years before I'm able to shoot a handgun in New York. But I can shoot PCC. Apparently, I can't hurt anybody with a rifle. It's just a handgun they don't want me to have.
So what John just said is that the state has stopped him from having handguns, but he can still have a carbine or a shotgun or a rifle.
Any long arm. So what they did was someone had sued them way back when and said, you violated my Second Amendment right. So now they said, you could have long arms. So now we didn't violate your Second Amendment right because you can still own a gun. You just can't own a handgun.
Based on some weird interpretation of law.
It's their interpretation. That's all that matters to them is their interpretation.
What magazine restrictions do you have where you're at?
10 rounders. It used to be when I first bought a gun, which is only maybe 5 or 6 years ago, it used to be you could have high capacity magazines if they were pre-ban. Okay. So like pre-1980 or something, right? Okay. So we all went to the store and bought like one Glock magazine for $50, and it was like built in the 80s. And then you could carry to and from the range with your one high cap mag. And then what people don't understand, unless you're a New Yorker or somewhere where you have the 10 round mags, to buy a regular, I don't want to call them high capacity magazines, to buy a regular magazine, right? Not a 10 round magazine. They're cheap. When you have to buy a 10 round mag, they become much more expensive because you only use them in New York and California.
I just bought some, and it's ridiculous how much they cost.
Not only am I paying more money, but I have to load more rounds. So if you and I are going to the range, we're going to shoot 50 rounds. Most people can do that at 2.5 mags. I got to load 5 magazines. So it becomes a real issue. Especially when you're shooting, muscle memory is important. You want to stay in the same spot. You want to be able to just shoot. So, a trained person, I think my reloads are about 1.5 seconds. I don't know that it's really slowing me down that much if I have to reload. It's the reloading of the magazine that's a pain in the ass. Sure. But if I was out on the street and God forbid I needed to reload, I could do it unbelievably fast. It's not going to slow me down all that much.
Sure.
They just want to see how far they can push it. Then they went to 7. Someone fought that almost immediately and got it bumped back to 10 because they're on our 7 round mags. So they were telling us to do is just load 7 in the magazine and then 1 in the tube.
Wow.
So
that is, the whole magazine restriction thing is a complete fallacy on the part of the lobby or legislators and lobbyists that try to pass that. It does zero to curb crime. It does zero to affect what criminals are up to. Some criminals not saying, okay, I'm not robbing this bank or committing this crime because I only have 10 round mags. It's fucking
which is even worse. Anybody that competes or shoots a rifle in New York, if you have an AR or a pistol caliber carbine, you have to have a New York compliant stock. And all that is an ugly stock. the gun functions exactly the same, but it doesn't have a pistol grip, and it's just ugly.
Oh, I've seen this. Okay.
But that's the only difference. Or you can use the cool looking stock, and then you can fix your magazine, and then you got to load from the top. So to have the gun function where you can drop magazines, I mean, you just need an ugly stock. It's like all you did was make my gun safe looking or safer looking, but it functions exactly the same.
It's just like putting a warning label on cigarettes. It changes nothing for anybody. People that are going to smoke are going to smoke. People that are criminals are going to be criminals, and it does nothing but limit rights. I don't smoke pot or care to smoke pot, but it pisses me the fuck off that if I wanted to grow a plant in my yard, dry it out and put it in a pipe or roll it up in cigarette paper and smoke it, the people in my state and in our capital tell me I can't do that. Like, what do you mean I can't do that? It's a fucking plant. I can't dry it out and burn it and breathe the smoke into my lungs. I can go trim lawn clippings out of my yard or dried leaves and burn them and rub it all over my face if I want to. I don't like being told what to do, especially when I'm a big boy and what I'm doing should be protected under the Constitution. I bring that up only because I think we have too many factions in this country of, like, I care about my freedom to smoke weed, or my freedom to get married to my boyfriend, or my freedom to shoot guns, or whatever. And I'm not gay, but if I was and I wanted to marry you, I wouldn't. You're too big and bulky.
Right.
If I wanted to, I would fight for the right to do that. So, like, I have some family members that are homosexual. I totally... Whatever you want to do, guy. You know,
if they want to be miserable, they should be allowed to get married. I don't see why not.
But you understand what I'm saying. I want the listeners to understand this. So here's the thing that I've tried to tell people on these subjects as much as possible. Quit looking at it like it's guns or same-sex marriage or the legalization of medicinal marijuana. That's like my medicinal IPA or my medicinal whiskey. It's not the legalization of any of those things. It's the decriminalization of fucking liberty. That's what it is. I mean, if you're not doing something that is injurious to somebody, get the fuck out of my life. Don't tell me what to do. Don't. Again, this is one of those slippery slope things. Well, what if somebody's what they want to do is hurt children? Well, that's a crime. You know, that's a crime. Or what if somebody wants to eat their neighbor's cat? Well, yeah, that's a bad thing. That's stealing, and that's, you know, hurting an animal.
Okay.
If it's stuff that we're trying to do to enjoy our pursuit of liberty, our pursuit of happiness, get the fuck away from me. So people need to, all of these little factions need to get together and begin to look at it like liberty, which is a libertarian party. I've never identified myself as a libertarian, but I suppose by what I'm saying, I am. You know?
Yeah.
So I think we get too stratified, and then it's diluted. You get 10 people arguing for gun control, 10 arguing for weed, 10 for same-sex marriage, and you could pick 100 other things. Even the right to end your own life. Oh, that's terrible. That's murder. It's suicide. If I got fucking cancer and I'm dying, I should have the right to. It's my body. It's not yours. It's not his. It's not government.
Just don't do it with a gun.
What's that?
Just don't do it with a gun.
Yeah, and I hope that never happens. And I've never wish anybody to want to kill themselves. But again, my point is, you add all those people up. If the goal becomes liberty in preserving our Bill of Rights, all of a sudden you've got 50 or 60 voices instead of 5 and 10 for each of the individual.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think say that again, please.
Each individual argument is better if we all came together as a whole.
Yeah. Liberty, freedom. This is why states like Alaska exist. You know, out west, people get the fuck away from me. I want to do my own thing. I'm not even talking about living off the land, just the government butting out of your life. Tell me I can't drink a soda. The funny fucking thing about that, now I'm getting pissed talking. Most politicians I know are out of shape sluts. Don't tell me I can't drink a soda. You can't tie your own shoes without getting out of breath, you know?
Yeah.
Now
but they're making decisions for us.
Because we let them. because we let them. We elect these pricks. Man, I had a live feed yesterday on Instagram. I fucking let loose a slurry of vulgarities. Makes me angry. Makes me angry how much we've given up. A state like New York, you think about the history of New York. I was in New York a couple years ago. I took my kids. We stayed in the Adirondacks, this beautiful old historic place on a lake. It was gorgeous. I want to go back there. But we went to Fort Ticonderoga on the border of New York and Vermont, is it? I believe so. And just looking at like the history of that part of the country, I mean, that's the birth of our nation. It all came from right there in the New England states. And being in Fort Ticonderoga, is that Lake Champlain? Does that sound right to you?
I don't know.
The lake between Vermont and New York. You walk into this fort. The French built the fort. The British took the fort over. The fort changes hands a few times. It's this beautiful old 400-year-old, 300-something-year-old fort. The British have it. Boston is under siege. Washington tells, was it Nathan Hale, I believe? He says, you got to go to the fort, take the fort from the British, steal all the cannons, bring the cannons back to Boston so we can shoot these bastards that are out in the harbor laying siege to the city. So it's like 500 miles or something. There's no roads. There's no freaking engines or steam or planes or nothing. These dudes set off 400 or 500 miles in the dead of winter with no roads across the mountains, rugged mountains. The story's amazing. They get there, show up in the cloak of darkness, attack the fort like frickin' Navy SEALs, take the fort from the British, a bunch of ragtag shopkeepers and farmers. Now, I don't remember the tonnage. You guys can look this up. It was tons and tons of cannons. They have no cars, no trains, no nothing. They load all these cannons. These freaking things are like, some of them are like feet around, made of metal, right? And they drag them back on the trip. This is months long too, mind you. So it wasn't like where now everything's instantaneous, hit the Amazon and it shows up. Months they do this. On the way back, they lose cannons through ice in a river. People die. They're literally cutting old growth forests to make a road from upstate New York to Boston. And, like chopping a couple trees at a time, move a few feet, chopping a couple trees. They get there. There's no time to celebrate that they got there. They unload the cannons and start bombing the fucking ships out in the harbor. The British leave. Yay, the Battle of Boston's won. That's the fucking history of New York. Now the history of New York is, yes, sir, you're going to have to come back in like 12 to 24 to 30 months, and we'll see if maybe we'll give you your shit back. Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. What the fuck? That pisses me off. That was a long story, but I wanted to make sure people understood.
Well, since we're off topic, I don't know if you saw.
Off topic. That wasn't off topic. I wanted to make sure people understood how far we've come from what we were.
Well, talking about people not coming together. I mean, I don't know if you saw the post. I posted something that if Trump asked for $10 for a brick in the wall along our border, would you pay it?
Yeah, I commented on that.
Second Amendment people hate Trump. It's unbelievable. People are like, I pay $10 to throw a brick at his head. I'm like, we're kind of talking about border security. One guy told me that he hopes my son gets leukemia.
Really?
Yes, you can't make this up. So you're not for the border, and then of course, then I'm racist. I'm like, you lock your door at night, right? Isn't it the same thing? We just want to lock up our borders, make sure that criminals aren't coming across. You coming across, you do it the right way, we vet you out, you're good to go. I'm not saying don't let anyone in.
Sure.
And people are like, well, I hate Trump because, I'm like, but I didn't ask any other reason. I just wanted to know who's into the border.
Who's into protecting our borders, because that's what our right to do it.
It was amazing. The response I got was really amazing.
I commented to a few of your commenters on that, and I think the point that you're making tells the real tale. It's the ignorance of it's my 95% rule, which is 95% of people are too ignorant to know how ignorant they really are, and that kind of coincides when people are like, the 1% has 99% of the wealth. Well, yeah, because they're smart. and you're not. Like that's really how that works. And people are like, oh, like give it to me. Well, no, that's not how it works. Like the fattest bear is the one that's smart enough to go find the most food. And that's the way it works with human beings. And too many people, you asked a very straightforward, simple question. Who would pay $10 to add a brick to the wall? And you said, give it to Trump. But the point was, what I read was, who is pro protecting U.S. borders? And people attached all the different things that they have in their emotion. Well, I hate Trump because, or my family's Mexican. I have family from Africa. I have family from Mexico. My family came here from Ireland and Austria and Germany. Everybody's an immigrant at some point, unless you're American Indian. Like you said, we are protecting, just like I lock my house and set my alarm at night. But people couldn't look at that, which is basic critical thinking 101.
Yeah, no, people really attacked. It was unbelievable. And the comments were, some people are like, well, you know, Trump married an immigrant. Yeah, so she got here legally. It's not like he's married to an illegal immigrant.
Right. He didn't bring her here in a freaking raft or under the cloak of darkness.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't understand the point there. Well, he shouldn't be making comments about any border patrol if his wife came from another country.
Shut up, idiot.
Yeah, so it comes a point where you have to just stop answering the comments because people are so stupid.
Your point, though, the point that you are making here is the same. I made a broad comment about liberty as a whole. So we have this stratification of people seeking liberty for whatever it is, weed, gay marriage, guns. Even in our community of gun owners, there's a huge stratification where, and I get this all the time as well. I remember posting something. I'm a vice chairman of the Republican Party here in our county until today, actually. Today is my last day. The people that have had like a fuck the Republicans, well, that has nothing to do with guns, dude. Or we've had discussions about NRA, gun owners, the young people, that the visceral response, NRA doesn't know shit. You stupid, jackass, ignorant, inbred motherfucker. Pardon me. Yeah. If you didn't know that we swear on this program, we do. They don't, it's just basic shit. I tell people all the time, go just Google NRA, anybody that wants to do this, NRA court wins, or just NRA court filings, and look at over the last 75 years, the amount of cases, 50 years, 20 years, the fact that most people have the right to carry a weapon. I said this to somebody the other day and they're like, NRA didn't give me that right. No, dipshit, I never said that. The NRA, though, and the NRA members paid for you to continue to have it because laws define our rights. And get that.
There's a YouTube video of the president of the NRA. It's like 2 years old, and he was explaining how the system is flawed. When you apply to get a gun, that everyone's talking about mental health. We need more checks. He's like, you don't need more checks. He's like, you need less people slipping through the cracks. Yeah. He's like, I mean, he named all the different shootings, and he's like, all of these people should not have gotten guns. He's like, they were all cleared by the background check because they were in an institution. The institution didn't put the paperwork in. It was all mishaps. But he's like, we don't need a wider net. We just need smaller holes.
It's all true.
He's like, and this is years ago. He's like, what you need is to be able to enforce exactly what's in place now. He's like, people are slipping through the cracks. It's not, you need more rules. You just need to figure out how to enforce these. And that I think was over 2 years old. So
is him saying things like that. People say, "Oh, the NRA's for gun control." No, dipshit. That's like it's the.
Well, the NRA doesn't want a mentally ill person out there with a gun. That's bad for everyone.
I'm going to add to that. There is no the NRA because the NRA is me. It's us. You. I'm not saying you were suggesting that, but that's the problem. The same thing when people say the government, it's like, that's you, that's me, that's that guy. We all vote and make this stuff exist and make it happen. The NRA's membership, if the NRA's membership as a whole wasn't on line with it, the leadership would change. That's how that works. And so we need to be on the same page. That's the point that you were making. The other thing though is I don't need to agree with everything. I don't think that smoking pot is good for you, but if you want to do that, I'm okay with it. So I don't agree with you, but I respect your right to do that. Don't take it to my kid and give it to my child, just like I respect your right to have a gun, but don't shoot it errantly, across the neighborhood and do dangerous things with it. Don't rob people with it. And so that's the big problem is it's like, well, I don't care about the weed because I think weed's bad and it's bad for you. Well, we need to look at it from the liberty standpoint and get on the same page of let's protect and promote liberty and the Bill of Rights, period. If we start thinking like that from that standpoint, I think it actually would lead to a much happier society. Hey, man, I don't ride skateboards, but I respect your right. It's really cool. I wish I could do that. Whereas people are like, those things are dangerous and they kids zooming out in traffic. Like we actually had a thing here in town where they banned skateboards from our town square. And like parents were up in arms. It's like skateboards are banned from the town square.
Still?
Yeah, I mean, it's like they're the scourge of society, skateboards. That's what happens when people fixate on the wrong thing.
Yeah, and back to Nassau County and Long Island, if there's anything that I could do to bring this to more people's attention and try and get this fixed, I mean that I guess is my goal. I have a Second Amendment lawyer working on it. I put up my own money. I'm going to start the GoFundMe. Hopefully that'll help. And then I guess the next thing is, how do we get this word out more than just this podcast? How do we get it out more than just Instagram?
We're going to do that. You and I are going to do that.
It needs to be Fox News. Realistically. I'm not sure CNN is going to have me on.
No, but I think if this is what I keep trying to pound home here, people need to understand that right now across this country, there are governments of the people, by the people. The elected officials in Nassau County are stripping a law-abiding citizen of at least two constitutional rights: due process and your Second Amendment, your right to keep and bear arms. And if that's happening there, it's happening in many other places, and it should fucking make people outraged. It should make people angry. In your point, even if you're guilty of doing something wrong, then you should have a trial. You should be able to defend yourself and exonerate yourself if need be, or be found guilty and say, okay, I'm wrong. That's the end of it. I think anybody listening to this should know that you'd have to be pretty psycho to sit and explain your personal life to the general public. And then,
that if I murdered someone, I would get a faster trial.
Right.
And I could do it in front of a police station and I would get a faster. They know that I'm guilty. I would still get a trial. Mm-hmm. This one, the police are saying, we know you didn't break the law. We know you have no violent tendencies, or we're still taking your shit away.
And a lot of folks don't realize states like California, states like Illinois here, states like yours, there are laws in effect where I could call the police and say, my brother, he's scaring me. He's got guns in the house.
Do that here. Yep.
And police can come, the fucking Gestapo, kick your door down with a no-knock warrant and collect your goods. Of course, a judge has to sign that warrant. That is scary without evidence, with somebody's word. Now, we just beat that back here in Illinois, but it'll keep coming up. It'll keep coming up. And a lot of people say, well, that's just stupid. How could you not agree to that? Well, look what's happened with you. Somebody's called the police and getting caught up in a system into a quagmire of bullshit. They just find it easier to say, okay, somebody called 911. That's meaningful enough. Suspend his Second Amendment rights. That is bullshit. That is bullshit. So we're going to get this GoFundMe page. It'll be up on CarryTrainer.com. John and I will both post it on Instagram. And what we want you guys to do is share this. If it's $5, if it's $10, if it's $100, if some of you guys are ballas and you want to write a check for a G-note, this money's going to go to say fuck you to lawmakers that don't want to uphold and respect the Constitution. I'm sick of it. I'm totally sick of it. Our state is losing people in record. We are the #1 state of people fleeing because we've got this oppressive, disgusting government. Right now in Cook County, Chicago, I believe taxes, if you go to Cook County or Chicago and buy like a nice dinner, I believe tax is almost 15% on your meal. What the fuck? Yeah, isn't that insane? Isn't that insane? Our home that I'm in right now, we pay some of your area, New Jersey, we're like the 28th highest taxed city in the country right here where I'm at. There's not much. We pay more taxes than people in Malibu, dollar for dollar, percentage wise. My
house is 1,600 square feet. Not a big house. It has a basement. I don't know the exact size of the property, but my yard is real small. No pools or anything. I don't think there's room for a pool, and I'm paying $9,700 a year in taxes.
Our house is a bit bigger than that, and we're paying $13,000, almost $14,000 where we're at. And I'm out in the country. We don't have a lot of land. Got under an acre. The road outside's got a huge hole in it. Thankfully, if I call 911, the fire department and police will come. That's like the main thing that I appreciate about taxes. I like that they plow the roads, but our state,
the police come right away for me too.
Yeah, they come right away to you. Thankfully, my wife and I love each other and don't have those issues. But honest to God, I think this is, I feel is the last 5 years, it's been my main focus is changing gun laws. And we do some instruction and stuff, but the crux of the matter, and the one thing that I decided to do with my Instagram page, which is how you and I met, was to try to educate people in whatever way I could. So when we started talking about this, it's like, yeah, we need to tell people about this. We agreed to that instantly. So I think once you get that page set up, I don't know if people are going to start to appreciate the level of fuckery that's going on, but they need to, and we're going to make them. And so if Fox News, if CNN, if any of them are going to publish it or talk about it, great. If not, we'll see to it that people hear about it. And this doesn't change until new people are elected. In a city like yours, or a state like yours, and a state like mine, we put a new governor in a couple years ago. He just won his primary yesterday. It was our election here. But he's the lowest ranked governor in the country because he was unable to do anything in 4 years because we have a completely shit bag that controls our state house. The guy's been there for 30 years and runs it with an iron fist. So the governor couldn't do anything. So we need to change. People say drain the swamp. We need to change a bunch of these elected officials. Yeah. And people can do that. I don't know what voter turnout it's like by you. We just had our election here yesterday, primary election, 26% voter turnout, 26% of registered voters. So I don't know what the number is this year, but of people eligible to vote, it's not 26%. It maybe like 7 or 8% of people eligible to vote voted. If everybody voted, it'd be a snap and we'd change shit.
Yeah, most people aren't even smart enough to vote. They don't have no idea the issues. They don't know who's running, especially the local stuff.
That's why back in the day you had to be a landowner to vote. They weren't stupid when they made that law.
You know, it's funny. I always say I think that anyone on government assistance should not be able to vote because you're only going to vote for more free stuff.
That's a tough one because I've been in some low points in my own life. You know, I've been to the point of filing bankruptcy, getting a house foreclosed on. You know, been like at.
I've been there, but if you're in that situation where you're getting government assistance, so back to the sugar, right? If you can afford to buy a sugary drink, I'm all for it. Go for it. If you want to kill yourself, kill yourself. If you're on government assistance, I think they should only give you healthy food because they're also paying for your medical.
Sure.
So now you should be drinking protein shakes and having grilled chicken. You're in the best shape of your whole fucking life.
That's an expensive way to eat.
Yeah, but it's way cheaper when it comes to diabetes and treating heart disease and all the other illnesses
from
eating McDonald's every day.
Sure.
So that's a trade-off. I mean, you can buy anything you want with your EBT card here in New York. You could go buy beer, steak, whatever.
You can buy beer?
Yeah.
So wait a minute. I can have in the state of New York. In Illinois, you can't do that. It's called a link card here. You can't buy liquor, no cigarettes, anything like that.
Liquor. I think you buy cigarettes. I mean, I see people in the city buying beer for sure.
And with that card.
With that card.
It's funny to me what your point. I'll be in the grocery store and it's annoying because I don't know. And some of our listeners may be on assistance, so I'm not insulting them because, like I said, I've been there. But I'll sit there and they got, in our state anyway, they got to ring stuff up differently. Like they're allowed to get 3 gallons of milk and then like maybe ice cream or something's not included. So they got to ring that up separate. So it just takes forever if you're stuck behind somebody. And you'll look at this cart full of shit. It is the crappiest, junk cereal, all the crap that I would never eat and don't feed my children. If you people, I lose followers every time I go on one of these tangents on Instagram. But you look at their card, it was like, oh my God, you just bought everything that nobody in this grocery store should eat, and I'm paying for it. And then they pull out the card, and yeah.
And then they go to the doctor, they pull out that same card.
And you're right. You're right.
So then,
yeah, it's ridiculous. It is totally ridiculous.
Yeah.
My freaking expensive webcam just started doing something weird. Anyway, we're going to get a link up for people to see this. We're going to push it. We're going to keep people in the loop on this. Maybe in a couple weeks or a month, we'll do a follow-up and see what's happening. And, for the heck of it, there's no reason we can't get a few people in the state of New York, New Yorkers that hear this, that want to help, that if you work in state government and it's something that you're involved with, call us. We'll get a group of people together and start making big changes instead of just talking about it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Cool, man. Well, we will get this podcast will be loaded up shortly, and we will follow up with you in private about what we need to do to get the information to the listeners.
Absolutely.
Cool. I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yep. April.
All right. We'll talk to you soon, John. Good to chat with you. Stay safe. Visit our website, CarryTrainer.com, for information about classes held throughout the U.S., CarryTrainer apparel, and upcoming projects. You can also email us at training@CarryTrainer.com for information about setting up your own private course or speaking engagement. Training@CarryTrainer.com or CarryTrainer.com.